Tia from Saskatchewan here today with the Quick Dick Big Dick Toonie, where you get $2 worth of my opinions because 2 cents don't buy very much anymore. Today, we're talking about the Parents' Bill of Rights. Now, this whole thing's kind of a mess, really, from front to back, and to be honest, I think it's more of where we're at as a society as the result of it being a mess versus anything else. But hey, it's happening in my province, and I've been known to give my opinion from time to time, so here we go, let's have it. Now, you know the rules of a Toonie.
It's a Toonie. $2 worth of my opinion. You might like it, you might not, you might agree, you might not. I might cuss, I might swear. Actually, I do cuss, I do swear. So if that offends you, this is your chance to just get out now. Otherwise, let's roll.
So in my opinion, the 2 most important jobs involving a child are the parents of said child and the teachers that the child has, because these people are the ones that are responsible for forming this young child's life. They spend the most time with them. Teachers and parents are both responsible for caring for, teaching, inspiring, empowering, and like it or not, disciplining children, which I believe there's not enough of nowadays.
But I guess what seems to have kicked the hornet's nest here is that within this bill it states that before a student can be identified as a different name, pronouns, or gender as what they were registered as in school, they must obtain parental consent. To which I say, good.
Oh boy, I can feel the comment section heating up already. Now, hold on a minute. Before you go calling me a biphobe, homophobe, transphobe, or a fetophobe, or, oh, hey, blue ball. Actually, that last one's true. I'm scared to death of snakes. How many things do you as a parent have to sign off for in school? Literally everything. For your kid to go on a field trip, to do contact sports, to go to the bowling alley, you gotta sign off on report cards to state that you've seen them. You know why? Liability. Which is why I'm shocked that all teachers don't want parents to consent to a child changing their name, pronouns, or gender at school, because that would clear the teacher of liability, saying, hey, we have involved the parents in an inclusive way and tried to support this as best we can, involving everybody, because then later in life, if the child who is now an adult regrets what's happened and this transition led to them going into puberty blockers or having surgery or whatever it is, you as a teacher can say, hey, here's the form, I signed it, the parents were in the know, everyone was good, not my fault. What happens if a kid's constantly misbehaving in school? The parents are contacted, right? What happens if a kid's constantly shitting themselves at school? Well, the parents are contacted. They're like, hey, we gotta come up with a plan to work with this, right? What happens if a kid's caught vaping or smoking or drinking at school? The parents are contacted. For fuck's sake, a kid can barely be left in school without a runny nose, without the parents having to be contacted. If a 12-year-old kid walks into a tattoo parlor with a handful of cash and says, hey, I want a tattoo right on my forehead, nobody in their right mind is gonna go, well, okay, sounds good. They're gonna say, hey, hold on a minute. I'm glad you want a tattoo and want to be a part of our community. That's fantastic. Let's talk to your parents first. Same thing with drinking. Same thing with driving. Same thing with voting. Hell, same thing with consent to sexual activity. Kids are too busy being kids to worry about making decisions about this shit. That is why they have parents, to help them along their way. But to all the activists in this that are just appalled that this is going on and that parents would want consent for this to happen with their children, you brought this on yourselves. Did you see what happened in Lumsden? Did you see it? I did a video on it. It was ridiculous. Don't forget about this little peach that happened in Outlook a little while ago. And when shit like this happens, parents start getting concerned about what their kids are being taught in school. And it gets them more involved and they want control over what's happening with their kids in school. And that's a good thing. Parents need to be involved with their kids. Now, for the activists that are advocating for, hey, you know, we're putting students at risk to harm if we out them to their parents, let's play out 2 scenarios. In scenario number 1, a guidance counselor, the principal, the student get together, they come up with a plan, and in a controlled and planned way, they bring the parents in, they have a conversation, and everybody is in the loop. It's a difficult conversation, but together they try and get through it and come up with a solution. And at the end of that, if the teacher, principal, guidance counselor are all concerned that the child is going to be subject to harm, then they can take steps further at that point in time to alleviate the harm that the child might be exposed to. In scenario number 2, we say, hey, the child might be exposed to harm, so what we're going to do is we're not going to tell the parents whatsoever. We're going to let them start identifying as he, she, they, them, however you want to do it in school. The entire school's going to know. All of the staff is going to know. And then one day, one of the parents of one of the kids who said this is what's happening with their kid meets up with the kid's parent in a grocery store and says, hey, so how's your child doing with the whole transition over to the different gender? Do you think that's a better way for a parent to find out, that that won't subject this kid to harm? Come on, we need to be adults about this. But the bill also states that if the child indicates that coming out to their parent could cause them harm, the school is going to provide the supports for that child so that they can eventually, when it's safe for all parties, come out to their parents before the entire school starts referring to them by a different name or pronoun. This is so important. We need to teach kids to have difficult conversations, because avoiding difficult conversations can take an issue that's not a big deal at all and let it fester and turn into a huge issue later in life. The best thing we can do is have conversations with people. And if we need to do this between students and their parents, that's an important thing to do. Now, for all you folks that are out there fist pumping, being like, hey, Ray, quick dicks on our side, I'm here to tell you to pump your fucking brakes a little bit. There's two sides to this. Gender dysphoria is a thing, and gender dysphoria can lead to depression and suicide. And if you've ever taken 5 minutes to talk to a parent that has had to spend time in their lives sleeping beside their kid's bed to ensure that they don't kill themselves as a result of the depression, you would figure out pretty fast how fucking important it is to get parents and everybody involved and on the same page when this shit's happening, so that we don't have kids that are fucking killing themselves. Teachers and counselors liaising between parents and students is kind of their job and what they're there for. It's a great opportunity to get to the bottom of whether you have a student that is actually suffering from gender dysphoria, headed towards depression and suicidal tendencies, or if you just have a kid that's kind of confused, that's seen some social media influencer on TikTok telling them this is something cool to do, and they're just going to try it for a little while, and it might make them a little more popular.
One thing I can tell you fixes absolutely nothing with what I see going on right now is the amount of people that are running around calling each other names. You get a group of people that don't agree with this bill, and immediately they're all called a bunch of groomers, and the people that do agree with it are called homophobes and transphobes, and none of it's really true. In a few cases, you're going to see extreme people on both sides of this that probably fit those descriptions, but everybody just running around throwing darts at each other fixes absolutely fucking nothing.
But no matter what, both sides of this need to stop using kids as pawns in their stupid game that they're playing. And for once, just once, it would be nice to see a government not try to make political hay with a sensitive issue. Looking at you, Scott Moe. So let's just close things down towards the end of this video with just looking at a couple of examples of what we do to each other. You know, like right here, the town of Foam Lake, there's this pride crosswalk that's been painted here. Is that a problem? Does that trigger you? Why? It's just a fucking crosswalk, and it's painted a color, and it's just a group of people that have got together and talked with the town. They're going to do it. Everyone has a chance to show their support for each other. So what's the big deal? But if you look here, there's a whole bunch of these that have been laid out, and people come, they just do blackies right over the pride crosswalk because you're not going to have one of those in our town. Well, do you need to be an asshole and do that? No, you don't. It's a terrible thing for you to do. And that antagonizes the pride community that somebody would do that. But has the pride community antagonized you by painting a crosswalk? It's not that big of a deal. I can see if there's a whole group of people walking down Main Street here with their tits hanging out and their giblets and gizzard hanging out and being like, you will be part of our community. Okay, well, we don't need to do that either, because that's antagonizing people in the other direction. Let's take hockey, for example. Like, look what the NHL did. They banned pride tape from warm-up. Why the fuck would you do that? It makes no sense. It's a player's way of showing a community that they support him, and it's just some colored tape. Is it that big of a deal? If that triggers you, just look the fuck away. I'd be pissed off if I was in the pride community too. Alternatively, look at Hockey Canada. They have made it mandatory that if you are in a change room, you actually have to have an undergarment layer on the whole time you're in the change room, because you might trigger somebody that identifies as something other than you. Well, holy shit! You mean as a kid you can't just go, change, shower, and go back out and play hockey like you always have? Well, no wonder people do fucking burnouts on pride sidewalks, because that pisses them off too. Can't we all just chill the fuck out and get along? Wouldn't that be neat? You know? Support kids who need support, all work with this together, and just make sure that we all have as good a lives as we possibly can in this country, instead of having a whole bunch of protests and worried about who's flying what flag and what's going on. No, I don't have a pride flag in my house, but it doesn't mean I don't support the pride community. I absolutely do. I don't fly a Every Child Matters Indigenous flag, but it doesn't mean that I don't support the Indigenous community. I do. I fly a Saskatchewan flag. We all live in the same amazing province, and we all need to get along, and we all need to support each other. When you look at all the shit that's happening in the world right now, here we are spinning our tires on what we're going to address each other as, and who's going to change in what room and what gender we're going to be.
let's turn the temperature down a little bit and all try and get along with each other and understand each other a little bit, and maybe things could just be a little bit better.
This is Quick Dick McDick signing off, reminding you, let's let kids just be kids with their fathers and their mothers. And for the rest of society, let's try and be a little bit nicer to each other. Catch you next time.
QuickDickMcDick.ca. Yeah, sure, you can buy stuff here, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Do whatever you want.
I'm gonna do a cooking video next. They're funner. This shit's exhausting.